Joe Mackenzie here, your watercolor coach. I was asked if I mix my paints before I paint or if I mix them while I'm painting. And I'm going to give you the most frustrating answer of all, because the answer is I do both. Now, there was a time when I did not do both. There was a time when I would just do one, and I wrote a book about that, 3-step watercolors. I would do all my darks, then my mid-tones, and my lightest lights. That was how I painted for a really, really long time. And I still stand by this because I still think that I paint this way. But the difference is my eye is better. And what I mean by that is I wasn't able to see value as clearly as I am these days. So now what I do, if you've watched my demos, you see me make these value dabs as I go along. Now, I also use a value finder, which helps me see those darks. You can see that those are darks at the very bottom. But when you come up here, everything gets neutralized because of the redness of this window. So it's very hard to see the difference through the value finder of a 7, an 8, or a 9 in value. But I can see it if I squint and use my own eyes. So I think I've gotten better at that, and that is where I will often be not mixing my paint ahead of time. It's when I'm in the moment and I'm realizing I need something in between, say, a 7 and a 9. What might that be? And at that, you know, as you know, with watercolor, one of the things that happens with watercolor, which is both fortunate and unfortunate, is you're stuck with a medium that is drying. From the minute you put it down, it's drying. And so there's a certain immediacy that, for me, needs to happen. That's what I love about it. But what it also does is it doesn't allow me to spend a lot of time figuring things out as I go along. I have to really know ahead of time what my different mixes will be. And the way that I know that is by spending a lot of time with paint on paper. I know I've been a daily painter for a really, really long time, and that makes a difference. You just pick up information about how much paint to use, how much pigment to use, how much water to use, and what your mixes will be. So, and that's one of the reasons that I teach in the studio, and one of the reasons that I teach online too, because what I'm able to do is, or as people report to me, what I'm able to do is kind of show them a new vocabulary of how to kind of get at this watercolor thing, which is not about painting the thing. It's not really about painting the apple as much as it is about painting the light, meaning the lights and darks of an apple. And then when you do that, and you're able to do that, you're able to create form. So my thing is really about value, forms, and creating mass. And that's why I say mass for value, mix for color. So I hope that's helpful. I know it's not the answer you want to hear. I know it, but you know, you have to start somewhere. And if you're going to start somewhere, I would start with mixing up my colors first. And I would, again, use a really strategic method for darks, mediums, and lights. Or you can go the opposite way and go lights, mediums, darks. It doesn't matter which order you go in, but it does matter if you're systematic about it. Because you will have a better result. Because inherently in watercolor, there is the problem that the piece is drying all the time. You're dealing with a really fluid, and I mean that in the literal way, a really fluid thing. And so you don't have a lot of time to dilly-dally. You don't have 5 minutes to decide what these two colors would look like if you mix them together. If you're watching this and you know what I'm talking about, you got to be moving along. So what I find helps me, as I said, is I am a daily painter, so that helps. And you know, if the first painting just didn't work, then usually what happens is the second one will. And that's often the case. Often the case the first time is just a trial run, because I like to get my information down as quickly as possible and with as few strokes as possible, which I'm not suggesting anybody needs to do. It's just something that I like to do. And it's the kind of painting that I really respond to. So I hope that's helpful. Remember to keep the whites of your paper white and your paints wet, mass for value, mix for color. I do teach in my studio, as I said, and also online, and I am available to do that with you. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.